Welcome to the KBB Review podcast. I'm Andy Davies, and Justine, Nick, Trevor and Liz are all here waiting eagerly in the wings for this week's episode, as this is going to be a completely unique one. Yes, it's all about uniqueness today, as we're talking differentiation and how you set your business apart from your competitors. What are your USPs? Do you have it all laid out in a big strategy? Or have you never even thought about what they might be? How do you even know if those USPs are actually unique compared to your competitors? And how do you make sure they drive the business forward? What's the point of them? And of course, how do you continuously work on those USPs and develop new ones for the future? We're covering all that and more in just a moment, but first, if you're really looking to stand out from the crowd, then there's definitely no better way than winning one of the trophies at the biggest ceremony in the industry, the KBB Review Retail and Design Awards 2026. Entries are open now, and we've got categories for retailers, designers, installers and suppliers. It's totally free to enter, and the closing date is Thursday, November the 13th. All the info you need is at kbbreview.com/awards. That link is in the episode description, and good luck. Okay, let's talk differentiation and being unique by talking to exactly the same group of people as the last few weeks. We have Trevor Scott from RFK and Rugby. Hello, Trevor.
Hi.
We have Justine Bullock from the Tap End near Cardiff. Hello, Justine.
Hello, hi.
We've got Liz PJ from Lima Kitchens in Milton Keynes. Hello, Liz.
Hiya.
And we have Nick Warrington from Stuart J. Warrington in Macclesfield. Hello, Nick. You're back in the living room today.
I am. Good morning.
But I'll still try and get a bracket off you or something later on, if that's okay.
I'll do your deal.
Thank you very much.
That's what he says to everyone.
Yeah, that's... Any big jobs, any nuggets of insight for us? What have we all been up to this week? Any successes? What's our wins of the week? Nick, how about you?
I survived the week, which was good.
Yeah.
Doing the trade counter and trying to keep the kitchens moving. So, that's a win in my book.
That's always a win. Liz, how about you?
We closed a really big renovation, so that was good for us.
That's always a good box to tick. Trevor?
Well, half the team have been in Germany for the kitchen mile. And
of course.
That's really been the big news of the week. A lot of customers have been, if you like, put off from seeing us until this week, post all the designers being over there looking at the new gear.
What's the feedback from over there been like?
I'd love to tell you.
We'll do that.
I haven't spoken to anybody yet.
We'll do that next week. Justine,
It is
how about you?
on a Monday morning, and they didn't come back until Saturday.
Oh, fair enough. I'll give you that one. Justine, what's your win of the week?
We've had some lovely new customers. We've got a lot of self-builders at the minute, so that's great for us. And we've been looking at what we're going to enter into the KBB Awards.
Ah, okay. That's what I'd like to hear. Well, entry's now open, as we've just heard. Right. We're going to talk about differentiation, and really this is about standing out from the crowd. But the phrase that's always used is USP. What's your USP? So I'm curious to ask that simple question is, do you know what your USPs are? Justine, what's your USP? What's the Tap End's USP?
So I do a lot of reading in, business books, management books, that kind of thing. And I really hate all of those terms like USPs, like all the jargon. I just really hate it. But I really love what's underneath that. So, you have to have a plan. You have to have unique aspects to your business. Otherwise, we would all be the same. But just the definition of USP, like the word, that phrase, I just don't like it. Because I think it's very nuanced. I think it's actually much more complicated than, what's your USP? I think if you ask someone, what's your USP, they often just answer what they think they should answer, or they make something up. So I think it's a really complicated thing to explain, actually.
Yeah, and I think you're right. That's what makes this discussion so interesting is I think people kind of stumble over that a little bit sometimes when you ask them, what's different about you? What's your USP? And a lot of the time they kind of make it up off the top of their heads. Speaking of which, Trevor, what's your USP?
Well, unlike Justine, I like to see a bit of blue sky thinking and do my stuff. It is a fair point. At the end of the day, we're all kitchen studios or bathroom studios, and therefore we're selling kitchens or bathrooms to our buying public. But I think a lot of what we've done over the last 20 years or so has revolved around events and trying to be silent salesmen, like putting the message across of who we are, what we are, and where we are, and what we do, but through subliminal messaging with sponsorship or events and that kind of thing. So, for instance, we're linked to a Rugby Food Bank as our sponsored charity, and in the event that we put on, we ask for donations to that. We sponsor and support local events. Most recently, it was a bit bizarre, but it was hay bale rolling in a a local village. It was very well attended, and there were quite a few big companies that were sponsoring it, and we were one of them. It was I was a bit of a raised eyebrow, and it was suggested to me, but actually I think it was a really worthwhile thing to have done.
Any events like that are always incredibly popular, incredibly local, though. That's the thing, isn't it? They're incredibly local, so I can see why that's the difference. Nick, how about you? Do you have a USP? Do you even care?
Yeah, it's funny because we obviously talked about this being the topic today, and it's been like homework all weekend with it sort of percolating through the brain. I think it's quite difficult because, as you say, at the end of the day, we're all selling kitchens and bathrooms. So how you differentiate yourself is quite difficult. I think for us, because we've been around quite a few years now, 40 odd years, I've tried to position ourselves, find our own position in the market, and that in itself becomes our USP. So we offer what we consider to be better quality than the big sheds, but we're not the full expense of a fully bespoke kitchen, and finding that sort of upper mid-market tier and combined with the design and service, it is our USP really. But sort of nailing your hat on one single thing is, I think, very difficult to do for a small independent.
Yeah, it's a hard exercise. Liz, have you gone through that exercise? Have you written these things down somewhere? Is there a big folder with all these things in at Lima Kitchens?
If only. It is, as everyone said, it is really difficult. And how well do you really know your competitors? We've got easily 23 other independents relatively local to us. How well do we know what they're offering? How do we know we are truly selling anything that's different? We do work towards it. We've always tried to build and add on to our services, as I think many people have. So a lot of people now take on additional works, especially within our area. And we've now been walking towards kind of accreditation, so members of things like the KBSA and Trustmark, and more recently with the British Institute of Interior Design becoming a practice. But then once you get these things, how do you then market them and build any kind of value for the consumer into that as well? So it's a process that you have to go through and see what works.
A recent exercise that we've begun and will be continuing to work through is that in conjunction with our marketing company, we're actually researching the competition and their online processes, and looking at their social media, looking at all of their systems that we can look at, and from that seeing what we can learn from it, and are our points of difference satisfactory, or have we got areas that we can improve on. We've only done a couple so far, but it's already proved to be quite an interesting exercise.
I think what's interesting about that is they're making you do this in a sort of slightly regimented, analytical way, which you've probably never done before in, however many decades you've been there.
Back to blue sky thinking, Justine, but doing a SWOT analysis on your competition has always been something I've considered to be a valid thing to do. Know your competition has always been important to me. Now, over the years, of course, we've been doing it for a long time. Most of the well-established ones we do know pretty well already, certainly the local ones. But as a business, and we've expanded our remit to a larger audience around the Midlands, so we need to find out more about what's happening in different towns than perhaps just our local area.
I suppose if you're using that analysis, that SWOT analysis, to then define your own USPs, I suppose that's the point, isn't it? But look, Justine, let's run this up the flagpole and see who salutes it. Well, is part of, when somebody asks you what your USP is, for the sake of that phrase, what I found with a lot of SMEs and business owners is, the truth is they are the USP. The individual is the USP. The individual is what makes the difference. And when people come to you, you're a small showroom, you've got a small team, it's you that they are tuning into, but perhaps the owner doesn't necessarily think of that as a differentiator.
I think that's exactly how I would describe it, actually. I think that if a client came in today, and then when they left, we asked them, what is the Tap End's USP? I think that they would be able to articulate it really well, because they will have just had that fresh experience. And I think a lot of it would be down to the people. So I think that the people should be your main USP, really. You should have the best people for the best results for your clients. And I think that they buy into that. Customers like to deal with someone that has knowledge, more knowledge than, perhaps a competitor they've been to in the morning if they come to them in the afternoon. So I think that the people should be the main USP, actually. Yeah.
So how about you, Nick? Because your business has been there a long time. It's a family business that you took over. Does it matter that you can't maybe articulate USPs in the sense that I'll get my USP file out and show it to you? Is it all about what your customers think your differentiators are? And perhaps they could articulate it better than you.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. And I think one of the things I did in preparation was just think back about the feedback that we get within the business about what did we do that motivated that buyer to go with us versus one of the competition. And for us, those things that you've just talked about, being a small, independent, family-run business, is part of our USP. And then along with what Justine said, my sales process is not a sort of fast in and out sales process that perhaps some of the larger competition in the area has to do. They have to get through the churn. I'm prepared to spend that time with the customers, challenge the thinking, and give them answers to, I mean, they come in with lists of questions, and I kind of invite them to do that because that builds trust. And I think that it's that sort of depth of knowledge and being able to really get to the root of what they want and deal with all these issues up front, which then makes life a lot easier throughout the install. That's where we thrive, and that's where we push ourselves. And that's where I think clients come away having placed an order, feeling comfortable that they're in a safe, they put themselves in our hands and that they're feeling safe about that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would confuse reputation and USPs as being different things, and actually I don't think they particularly are. Liz, you said the number of competitors you've got. Have you done like the similar kind of SWOT things that Trevor's done? And how do you then measure yourself against it and change what you do because of it?
So yes, we actually have some really good relationships with a lot of the bigger independents that are locally. So we meet them at events, we will phone each other up, have a chat, see how things are going. So we know those businesses particularly well. Obviously, the national companies are easier to find information about, but those smaller ones, we will do the same. So we'll follow the social media, and you've got the website, and you get feedback from other clients when you come up against them as well. So other people are doing this, or this is what's being offered here. So you get that information fed to you as well via your clients, so long as you've got that relationship that they're open and willing to kind of discuss that with you. It is definitely important to know your competitors and keep on top of it, because they change and evolve just in the same way that we do. So understanding what they're doing to change is important too.
Your customers, your clients, will have invariably been to these other places as well, as you say, and therefore they are the ones who can see the unique points of difference because they're choosing you over them because of them, presumably. That could be anything. That could be the person they're dealing with, it could be the price, it could be the brands that you sell, it could be a million different things. So the clients are the ones who are really picking those USPs up. But how, Trevor, do you get those USPs across to potential clients? Do you include that as part of a presentation? Do you sit there and go, let me just tell you a little bit about RFK, here's why we're different?
Well, I think you need to read the website to pick up on that. And what we try to do through the case studies in particular is to personalise them. When we ask for reviews from our clients, we want them. Obviously, we can't define the words that the client uses in the review. But what we'd like them to do is to make mention of the name of the designer and mention the name of the installer and point out that they were very happy with how Sharon designed the kitchen and project managed it from cradle to grave, and that Dave was a fantastic fitter. And these things resonate with people because they do personalise the relationship building. And going back in the day, of course, people would come in our singular showroom in those days and ask specifically for me. Of course, now I'm divorced from that side of things, so it's become ever more important to ensure that the design team across the spread of the showrooms equally have those personalities and are recognised by our clients or our potential clients as people that they want to do business with and to talk to. And I think we achieve that quite well because we quite routinely have new potential customers come in, contact us, and they specifically want to deal with person A, person B. So we've got the message across.
Justine, would you ever want to have a very clear point of difference that you would literally put on the poster, if you know what I mean? So we'll beat any quote, or we're the cheapest in the town, we sell more brands than anybody else, like a very clear slogan type USP?
All of those things are probably the opposite of what we do, the opposite of what we would put on a poster. And then I think that does separate us then from other people who are promoting those things. We couldn't be more different from that list really that you just listed.
There must be a your version of that. Our service is better than anybody's, our reputation, our Trustpilot review, our whatever it might be. That's a slogan.
Yeah, so we put on our window, for example, we put award winning, and then we have our awards on display. We go really heavy on our reviews. So we make sure that if we make contact with a new client, we're asking them, have you seen our social media? Have you seen our work? Have you seen our case studies on the website? Have you seen our reviews? So we are directing people to these things that do separate us from other people who are just promoting that they'll beat any quote, I had a customer in on Saturday, actually, and I said to them, do you know anyone that's had a bathroom from us? And they said, no, but I've asked around, and someone said, don't go there. They should be called top end, not tap end. And then he said, so I specifically came to you guys because I want top end. So I was like, great, that's great.
Yeah, that's the reassuringly expensive thing that that Stella have, although Stella's horrible, it's like licking a battery. But the point is they have that, but they make a virtue of the fact that they are expensive, and therefore it is a luxury offering. Now, Nick, you've been around a long time. Is there we're the oldest in the neighbourhood, our PTFE is better than anybody else's? What do you have?
I think I do play a little bit on the amount of time we've managed to keep going as part of our USP. So it's a war of attrition sometimes, isn't it? But I think for us, and going back to the will be any quote, we've conscientiously moved away from that. And our opinion is that we offer a good service to clients throughout. We'll arrange all the associated works, all the additional bolt-ons that perhaps they don't get everywhere. And that's what part of the feedback that we get from our clients. And so I will play on that. What I do is if someone comes in and they say, we're price driven, I'm quite happy to have an upfront conversation about that and say, well, if price is your primary driver, you probably will be able to go and find somewhere else down the road who's prepared to do your kitchen for a lower price. It won't be the same, but it'll look similar and it'll be cheaper. And if that's the way you want to go,
but again,
there's a few.
That's coming back to the idea of you've got to know who your competitors are. When they come in with a quote from somebody else, you've got to know their business well enough to be able to then argue against them. My favourite story, which is almost certainly not true, but I don't care, is have you heard this one? There's the barber who used to do a haircut for £10. This is how the story goes, and it was a £10 haircut. And another barber opened up down the road, and they put an A board outside saying haircut £6. And the guy sat there and he thought, how can I beat that? I can't beat a £6 haircut. What am I going to do? So the genius was he put an A board outside his shop saying, we fix £6 haircuts. Right? But it's that differentiation again. It's about knowing who the understanding is. There's your, a very competitive environment. What's the Lima Kitchen's slogan?
We're actually working on rephrasing it, but for many years now, we've had the tagline, planning and installation made easy.
Yeah.
So it's a simple, straightforward,
service-driven,
to the point, really. Yeah, it's service-driven. And as I've said before, we are very open about talking about budgets, how people have got there. So if it's a case of I literally have this amount of money and that's it, then the conversation is probably going to be different to I had a kitchen done then, or my friends had a kitchen done and this is how much, or a guide online. We kind of just have open conversations and make sure that service and product differences and quality and longevity is all really kind of stressed to our clients.
But it's summed up very neatly in that phrase, I think, because buying a kitchen is incredibly complicated with a million different decisions, and if you can make it easy for them, great. You mentioned product there. Obviously, you're all independent businesses. There's an awful lot of them out there, but they all sell basically very similar products, right? And the brands are very similar, or a lot of the products look very similar, let's be honest. So does that make being different more difficult? Justine, it's incredibly competitive in bathrooms. A basin is a basin a lot of the time. A shower screen is a shower screen. Does that make differentiation different, or do you really have to lean heavily in on design expertise, etc.?
Yeah, 100%. So I would say that we lean more into what we can offer clients as designers and experience rather than what we can offer them as an individual product. So it's very rare that we would promote a product, if that makes sense. We might feel much more comfortable promoting what we offer as a team rather than what we offer as a supplier brand or an individual item.
It's one of the accusations people have sometimes, isn't it? That retailers can be brand collectors. They just want the sticker in the window. But that, as you, I'm sure, know, Trevor, that doesn't really differentiate you very much if they see the same brand everywhere.
Yes. Going back a long way when we were primarily only selling door and carcass combinations from suppliers who were choosing to remain unbranded. It's changed a bit now. The likes of Burbage are quite happy to shout from the rooftops that, Burbage kitchens are fantastic. But we quite often felt that by association worked well for us. So rather than selling brand X or brand Y, we would specifically hitch our saddle onto the horse of a major brand that had a lot of pull. And that association in itself, it set both a price point and a quality point that the rest of the offer could be associated with. To a lesser or greater extent, I think that still pays dividends today, because without a doubt, major appliance brands have got a lot of punch when it comes to their marketing. And most furniture brands remain completely unknown to the public.
We're going to hitch our saddle to that horse, Justine. You can cross that one off on your list as well of corporate bingo.
Yeah.
I mean, look, brands are important, Liz, aren't they? But would you not stock a brand because it was too common? Because it didn't help you differentiate yourself?
No, it doesn't. If there's a saturation of a specific product, it can be really difficult. We are heavily in bed with BSH. They're down the road. We've got a really good relationship with them. We like the products, but they're everywhere. So we've selected 3 of their brands and we work towards being their studio line or their 5-star master partner, so that we're coming up higher than our competitors on their website should there be a search. But in all honesty, in recent years, having the brands there, we get very little from it. We get far more from our own marketing and our own recommendations than we do from being attached to those brands.
I suppose, Nick, there's very few brands and certainly very few products in this market that Mr. and Mrs. Smith would walk in and ask for. I suppose, the slide and hide is probably one. A Kuka Tap is probably the other. There's very few of them, aren't there, that have the sort of power to pull customers into your showroom. So are brands something you talk about when you talk about how different you are compared to competitors? We stock them, we don't stock them.
I do a little bit, although it's interesting because I think one of the things that we do is, and again, going back to USPs, I think one of the ways we try and differentiate ourselves is to say that we've probably got a little bit more flexibility in what we can offer a client than perhaps some of the other places that may be a little bit more catalogue driven in terms of what they offer. So I do offer that flexibility. I'm again, like Liz, I'm with BSH, we're a studio line studio. So we do demonstrate those, and I tend to steer people towards those if that's within their budget, but there are other alternatives available. As you say, if anyone comes in wanting something specific, it is usually the Neff slide and hide because they've been watching Bake Off again. But I think one of the things that we are able to do, because we're not tied to brands on the kitchen side, is, if someone comes in and says, well, I've seen this door and I like this door, we can usually find something that we can offer to account for that taste. So whilst we might have core suppliers that we lean on heavily for most of the time, if we have to go a different way, then we will do. And my opinion, I think a bit like Liz, is that we get a lot more of our inquiries come through what we're doing and our local reputation in the market than actually via the specific brands. And so people who are coming in to buy a kitchen off us are buying one of our kitchens rather than brand X, brand Y.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about new USPs. Justine, let's conclude all this on a positive note. How do you come up with new USPs? Are you looking for new USPs? How are you defining and looking for what you think you might need next month, next year, 5 years from now in a grander plan?
Yeah, I definitely think we're always looking for new ways to separate ourselves from competitors. We're also looking for new ways to enjoy what we do, because our team we've had for quite a long time, Zoe in particular, I worked with her before, so I worked with her for 7 years before, worked with her for 7 years now, so coming up to 15 years we've worked together. We want to be happy in work, so as much as it's about separating ourselves from competitors, it's also about what's the next thing for us to enjoy our jobs, consistently year after year. So I think that it's all a bit of a package, to be honest. We do a lot of team meetings where we discuss ideas, and it's very much like a collaborative, collective approach when we make changes. And it's for the good of everyone. It's for the good of the client. It's for the good of ourselves. And then I think that really shows, when people are happy in work, we give better service.
Your USP is your team of people, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
It's the welcome, and you're clearly working on that all the time, and to make them happy in their job, because that makes them a better USP. Liz, what about you? You talked about new qualifications you have.
Yeah, so again, it's driven a lot along the lines of what Justine said. So keeping our own interest and development. We're in a situation where we're employing designers who already have interior design qualifications, and we thought to ourselves, well, why don't we try to make this a bit more formal? So we've underdone that ourselves and become a practice in order to do that. And that's opened the door to new products, new ways of thinking, new kind of CPDs available to us, and just connections. So a very different approach and viewpoint. So we can bridge some of those gaps that clients don't know how to do themselves. So help them more with the interior design stuff and create relationships with people who do more of the soft furnishings. That's become a lot easier for us since doing that as well. So that's something we've worked on and are looking to promote to clients. It's very new development, but yeah, but that's something we think will help.
But it is a clear development of what makes you different. Trevor, you've got a whole team of people there. What are your plans for the future on how you just make everything a bit more RFK, if that makes sense?
Well, yeah, the strength now is the brand. I mean, as you know, but many others don't now, because we've been working on this for some years, is that RFK stands for Rugby Fitted Kitchens. Now, as long as we're in Rugby, that's great. But when you're in Market Harbour or Warwick, then what relevance does Rugby Fitted Kitchens have to you? So rebranding a few years back now, and then reinforcing that with our marketing subsequently, that we are now RFK Kitchens. So Rugby Fitted Kitchens. Don't do that. It doesn't work, but that's what it actually stands for, has become quite important. And the brand is RFK. That seems to be working. And having a unified website that works across all three of the showrooms and the contracts business, all of our points of contact with the consumer via our social media is all RFK branded now. And back to what we were saying about, back in the earlier days, then our level in the market by association with appliance brands was quite important, but it's become less significant now. For sure, we wouldn't have a business if we weren't selling left slide and hide ovens. We give them away like packets of crisps to kids outside school playgrounds, but that was probably a poor choice of phrasing. Actually, can we delete that one?
I don't think creepiness is a USP, Trevor.
yeah.
But we know what you meant.
We know what what I meant, yeah. So and the whole team now are working much more towards being part of the collective whole of being RFK people, and we rotate them around. I mean, yeah, everybody's got their location that is their main principal base of operations. It would be that Rugby, Market Harbour, or Warwick, and in contracts. But holiday cover and such like. Let's be honest, times are still fairly tough. So the level of personnel we've got isn't as great as it could be. So when it comes to holiday or sick cover and such like, then staff need to be allowed to and encouraged to step out of their comfort zones and move into different locations. Fortunately, because of the computer systems, everything can be done remotely, and we can hot desk. For instance, just recently, our young designer on contracts has been looking after the Market Harbour showroom. And that's been a great experience for him. So it's that kind of thing that we're doing to just sort of grow the team and make sure that they're all feeling that they have a place in the whole, but that isn't dovetailed and locked in. That there is room for them to grow within the business.
But I think when you have a larger business like that, maintaining culture is difficult, and you're clearly putting a lot of effort into that. Nick, what about you? Do you have a grander plan of what's next for you? And identifying differentiators is really hard, but then you've got to go after them and work out how you're going to get there. So have you got plans?
What we've been looking at is, and this goes back to what is a USP, and for us it's the whole package, I suppose. So we've spent quite a lot of time over the last 18 months looking at corporate bingo customer journey, from that initial touch point with the client right through to getting an order off that client, and how we handle that process, and making sure that process is consistent and delivers what we consider to be sort of the best side of us in terms of the way we handle the client. Going back to product, I think that there's a tension between all these suppliers and manufacturers going, look at our shiny new product that we'd like you to sell, and they themselves are trying to create their own USPs. There's go and buy a shaker door from half a dozen different door manufacturers, can't you? So they're always trying to bring out their own product and encouraging you to push that forward. And sometimes you have to actually take a step back and say, well, actually, what do we do? What are we strong at? Do we want to move away from that, or do we want to sort of double down and strengthen the reputation that we've got doing what we do well, and only really gradually move away from that? And so for me, my plan is really to perhaps not be quite as diverse. I'll have a go at that, I'll have a go at that, but is to go, this is what we're really good at. We'll focus on that, and we'll pursue that. And so for us, going back to the conversations about price, product, service, for us, it's meant focusing on those clients who want a really good service from beginning to end, design and product led, rather than being, race to the bottom, price driven. And so for me, it's really pushing forward with that and getting more of those clients.
Yeah, an inch wide and a mile deep. For me, it really comes down to what is the USP of independent retail as opposed to what are the USPs of individual businesses, because so much of this is focused on personal service, expertise, will hold your hand through the whole process. All of this is what makes independent retailers unique as opposed to what makes individual businesses unique. And that makes you, in your very small catchment area, very unique, even though you're offering the same thing as every other independent retailer. And I think that's fascinating. What's been interesting for me is recently, if you talk to really, because I'm old, if you talk to young people in this industry, the people who are in their early 20s coming through, they talk about brand a lot. This is the social media generation. It is all about branding, no matter how small the business is, no matter how big it is. They all talk about what the brand stands for, what the brand mission is, what their USPs are. This is becoming almost like a shorthand, really, for coming through of a next generation. And I think that's just fascinating. So look, I'm going to round this up now with some homework for you. I want you all to come up with a slogan for your business, a one-sentence slogan that sums up who you are and what your USP is.
But you never asked me what ours was anyway, and I've got it. We're already using
well, what is it? Okay, what's yours, Trev?
Design-led, but surprisingly affordable.
There you go. Surprisingly. I like the word surprisingly in there. Right. Thank you very much for your time, everybody. This has been a really, really interesting one, I think, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.